D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game, and The Game Nashville app. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day on this beautiful Friday. Willy D-Mase, how we doing? Happy Friday.
Hey, happy Friday. I'm taking the phone off the hook and all this other stuff.
It's
like
China
I'm
shop
old
here.
school right now. My parents back in the day would take the phone off the hook. Like, I don't want nobody calling here. Take that phone off the hook. Phone been ringing too much. Take it off the hook. I'm being serious. Phone's ringing too much in this house. When I was younger, y'all friends calling to take the phone off the hook.
I don't want to date you here, D-Mase, but like, did you have a phone back then where you had to wait till somebody was off the line?
Oh yeah, and that's why a lot of times, like at night, it was like take the phone off the hook. No more calls coming in because you couldn't like stop it. Just had to cut it off.
Did you have one of those phones that you
rotary
had
phones? Yes. See, she said one of those phones. Rotary phones, yeah. Yeah,
phones?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The ones you hang on the wall. You have you have the 200-yard cord.
Yeah,
so
the
you can
cord
go all the way around the
all
house.
got twisted around and tangled up.
See, y'all didn't have to experience that.
Trying to get around the corner so you have a little privacy.
Yeah. See, she said they had a landline, Willie, but it was cordless. We had a landline. It was a landline.
Had the cord. Had the cord.
We had the
My
cord.
grandmother still has a landline, like a legit landline.
Big ups to her.
And you know what? It never goes out during a storm, and she still got the little spinny one too. So I mean,
the spin. Anywhere. That's awesome.
And I guarantee you, she knows everybody's number.
Yeah, for the most part. She'll call. Hey, she called me like this past Tuesday. Hey, what's for dinner? I don't know. I don't know. To tell you.
You know what? I know it had. I know that this is not true, but I'm thinking about it. And I know it's not true, so people, when I say it, it's not like I don't know or I'm an idiot or something. Just think about rotary phones back in the day and now, cell phones now. Can I call you through a rotary phone to your cell phone?
Yeah, it works.
I know it works, but I'm just saying, like, got to go to the whole number, then wait. So, you know. Yeah.
If you do it and at the end it goes, I'm sorry, it's just too old.
Yeah.
It don't work. Click.
I'm sorry, there's a statute of limitations on this phone.
You took too long to dial a number. Took too long to dial a number.
Yeah. If there was a lot of 9s and 8s, too, it'd take you a little extra time.
Oh, my goodness. And I remember when we found out how we can call somebody right back that called us that we didn't know their number.
Oh, yeah.
You can call that number right back. What was it? Was it star 69?
Star 69 is...
Yeah, star 67. Star 67
69 was to call the person back that just called you.
Yeah, but then star 67 was...
No caller ID.
Yeah, no caller.
Right.
Yeah,
So
no caller ID.
call back in the day.
Used to push that, and then you put the number in. Man.
Well, that's like the OG
They've come a
cell
long
phones.
way.
You had to press 7 4 times to get an S.
Oh,
when you used to text.
You're right.
That was my first cell phone.
The BlackBerry came out and everybody was like, okay, we're here, 21st century.
Yeah.
Or the beepers
breaker.
Where you would put certain letters like I love you, they have to turn it around. Okay.
Evolution.
I'm just thinking like, y'all have it good. And I do sound like that guy, get off my lawn guy. I am. But y'all have it so good, Willie. Like the things that we had to drink water out of the water hose at somebody else's house. Like if we were out in the neighborhood, you wasn't going to, no, just get some water out of the water hose. Make sure you cut it off. And if you have a water hose, you better put it right back where they had it. Don't just let it just everywhere. No, because you won't be able to go back to the house and get no water.
I'm now like experiencing my taste buds right now. The taste of the water out of the water hose, a little bit of dirt, a little bit of like rubbery.
But you let it run for a second, especially on a hot day. Oh man! But then some, because they let it, it's like everything is facing the sun, and the sun is beaming, and you turn it on, and it never gets cold, and you just drinking hot water. But you got to drink.
Still better than nothing.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. So man, y'all got it so good. Gosh, just thinking about the stuff we had to go through, the trouble. Like we had to wear our key for the house around our neck.
Or you tie it on your shoelace.
Tie it on your shoelace, and you bet not lose it. You bet not lose it, boy. Woo-hoo.
I don't even remember what we used to do with our key because I grew up with technology. So
Yeah.
when I was a kid, technology didn't really exist. Like social media came about when I was like middle school, high school. Like I had a flip phone when my first cell phone was a flip phone. So I kind of grew up with it. I think we were one of those families that just kept the key under the mat and just hoped for the best.
Hope for the best, yeah.
Yeah.
I know some people that do
I
that.
don't remember that,
I used to have to just wear it like a little shoestring, tie up a shoestring, put it around my neck, or like Willie said, if you're out with your friends in the neighborhood, you better tie it to your shoe so you don't lose it.
All right, well, Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday, everyone.
And Nostalgia Friday.
Finally, we had a basketball game to watch last night.
It wasn't much of a basketball game last night. I stopped watching at halftime. I said, this game is over. I mean, Boston, and I don't think it's going to be indicative of the series by any means. And I know some people,
I think it might be.
They just jump out, but I don't think, because the second half of the game was much different than the first half.
They got it down to 8.
Yeah.
At one point, I was like, maybe they
Boston can't shoot that good for the
Yeah.
remainder of the series. They can't. Yes, it's unprecedented if they do. And I don't think Dallas can shoot that bad, even though Luka scored 30 points. I don't think they're going to shoot that bad. We've seen Boston do this before, where they blow somebody out the first game and then come back the second game and lay an egg.
Remember the 85 finals? You probably remember that.
Which one? I know Boston.
It was. I think it was
Lakers.
Memorial Day. Or didn't they call it the Memorial Day Massacre? I think that Boston beat LA by about 40.
Oh my goodness, they put a beat down on them.
But then LA came back and won the second game in Boston, and they went on to win. In
So
one
that
of those
could
great
happen.
battles of the 80s between the
could
Celtics.
happen.
I hope it's more
Is
back
that
and
over
forth
with?
than
Oh,
it
it's
was.
got to be.
It has to
Kyrie
be.
wasn't the same
Nah,
last
it
night. I don't
just
know what's going on.
wasn't, yeah.
Nobody could hit a shot. They were literally letting the other guys for the Mavericks shoot. Like, here, you want to shoot it? Go ahead.
Exactly.
They couldn't hit anything. Meanwhile, everybody who touched it were the Celtics in the first half.
goodness.
How about Porzingis?
He was just shooting
30
balls
footers,
from-
just boom,
He was
like
shooting
line
hook shot
drives.
3-pointers.
I want to see like a velocity and an arc.
There was none.
There was none. It
was like Bill Laimbeer.
It was a line drive.
It was like Bill Laimbeer. Like,
and it didn't touch the rim.
I watched the
straight net.
softball game instead.
I tend to do that as well, Caroline.
Yeah, it was awesome.
History.
Yeah, back to back national championships for Oklahoma.
back to back. Wow,
Four in a row.
That's-
So the
that's
seniors
impressive.
have won
That's
national
impressive.
championships
Every year.
every single year. So shouts out to Patty Gasso, 8 Natty Patty.
And we got
the
the,
head coach of
Super
the
Regional
University
starting
of
up
Oklahoma.
already, right? Is this
Yep.
the first Super? Okay, nice.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get
UConn,
into,
by the way, UConn's playing Florida State. A little side. UConn has 9 Division III transfers.
Oh wow.
9. It just shows you all of the swirling around of players, the transfer portal, everything. It just has all of these different tentacles now. It's so different how you build your team, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show, about the madness of roster building now in college sports.
Transfer portal giveth
It's
and
nuts.
transfer portal
Yeah.
taketh away. It's a little bit of give and take. We'll get into some of our college baseball thoughts later.
Against the Purple Aces in my college career.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Baseball powerhouse.
In fact, Evansville used to play at the field that the movie, what's the women's baseball with Madonna and
League of
Rosie
Their Own.
O'Donnell? League of Their Own. League of Their Own was filmed at where Evansville used to play.
Oh.
Really old, cool
Interesting.
park. Yeah, that's where I lost Evansville, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
I beat them in Nashville.
There's no crying in baseball.
No
Willy.
crying in baseball. Got to move on.
We'll get into some of our baseball thoughts, but before we get into that, and of course we'll have Ask D-Mase at 12:30, so get your questions in for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. I do want to kind of wrap up our minicamp thoughts. Of course, the Titans wrapped up mandatory minicamp yesterday, 3 consecutive days out on the practice field. They'll be back out on the practice field Monday through Thursday of next week for OTAs. Of course, everything that we've been talking about with OTAs, everything comes with a grain of salt. Everything comes with the caveat of a lot of things are new. The quarterback is young. The head coach is new. First-time play caller, new offense, new defensive coordinator, a first-time defensive coordinator. There's a lot of newness going on the sidelines and, of course, on the field as well. New pass catchers, new pieces to the offensive line. So everything with OTAs comes with a little bit of a grain of salt, and also comes with a grain of salt understanding that nobody really thinks the Titans are going to be all that great. So I don't expect to be wowed on June 6th if you don't really expect to be wowed on, October 15th. But a couple of things that I've kind of taken away from minicamp as a whole, and specifically yesterday. J.C. Latham spoke at the podium yesterday, and we were kind of deciding, do we want to play J.C. Latham? Let's just play Brian Callahan. Don't really know what's going to come from J.C. Latham. We always talk about this behind the scenes, like what's the best experience as a listener. So we ultimately made the decision, let's not play it live, and if there's anything interesting that comes out of it, we'll play it after the fact. I went back and listened to that J.C. Latham press conference. I was so freaking impressed by J.C. Latham. And look, I don't know what's going to come of J.C. Latham. I don't know if he's going to be able to make that switch from right tackle to left tackle. I don't know if he's going to be considered a home run for the Titans. I don't know if he's going to be a Hall of Famer and a future Pro Bowler, or maybe if he's just one of those left tackles that you don't talk about very much. Maybe he's going to be an absolute and complete bust. I don't know what's going to come from J.C. Latham. But listening to him, his work ethic, his attitude, his dedication and commitment to being a good teammate, I was so impressed. This was just a little bit of a snippet of what we heard from J.C. Latham yesterday and kind of where he got that work ethic from.
We've heard from a couple of people now that they're having to kind of drag you off the practice field at times. You're out here getting individual work. Is that the way that you've operated for a while now, or is that you're trying to up the work ethic? What's the deal there?
Yeah, I think I was in 10th grade or 11th grade when they moved me from right to left, and it was not right to left, when they moved from D-line to O-line, and I was a top 10 defensive player in the country, but we just lost 3 linemen to a crazy incident. 2 of them tore their ACL, 1 MCL playing basketball. It was insane. So they moved me and Tyler Booker to play tackle. We were D linemen, 2 top D linemen in our class at the time. I like to compete and I like to win, but obviously I'm playing a whole different position I've never played before at IMG at a high level. So, I'm talking to the coach and I'm just working with him every single day after practice. And then conveniently, I'm watching a video on Kobe Bryant, and he's just expressing the fact that, he felt like he kind of arrived in basketball a little bit later. But if, he worked out twice a day, then by a year span, he'd get better 2 years worth of work in 1 year span. And then, that's what he said he did. So in 5 years of being in the NBA, he'd have 10 years of work. So I just kind of took that to heart. If I did my work on my own, then outside of the practice, I'll get better twice as fast. So since I was in high school, that's something that I've always kind of adopted to always do. Did it in high school, Alabama, and out here. So,
Guys can say whatever they want to say, and it at least sounds so incredibly genuine and so confident coming from J.C. Latham, which as a rookie, maybe you're a little bit uncomfortable in front of the media. That didn't seem like the case. But even just listening to Joe Rexrode, because obviously we can't be out at practice, but Joe has been out at practice the last few days. He talked this morning about how that was one of his takeaways. But it's not just J.C. Latham talking about how, hey, I got to get dragged off the field. Joe was talking about how, he's getting after Olga and Bertha, who are absolute units of a sled. That, the way that he's practicing, the way that he carries himself, it's exactly what you would want in any player, but especially a young player that the Titans have invested so much into.
Yeah, you want to, have a person in your organization, especially a young person with that type of work ethic. That's going to give him an opportunity. Your work ethic gives you an opportunity to become what you inherently want to become. Now, you have to have the talent as well. I can't, no matter how much I work out and try to and do post moves, I'm not a center. I'm not 6'7". So no matter what I do and no matter how hard I work, I'm not going to become a center. But a guard, yes, I can work hard and have talent and then allow, that talent to sort of flourish. And it's flourishing because of you working hard. Like he said, he's doing 2 years of work in 1 year, which means he's going to get a little bit better faster than the next guy that probably has this talent if that guy isn't working hard. I've always told my son and other people when they play this young guys, listen, you got to be working when other people are not working. If you're working when that guy's working, it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, you may be better than him. Yeah, you may be a little bit further along than him. But eventually, if he's working harder than you, he's going to catch up and surpass you. So you got to make sure you're working. If you got to get up 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning to do something, best believe there are not many people up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Or if you're working in midday when it's blazing hot, you know how many people don't go outside because it's blazing hot or rather go inside? I got to be in some air conditioning. No, go outside, do it responsibly, but go outside and work hard. Endure that, the heat, because that's what you're going to be playing in September. August and September is the heat. So to me, this gives him an opportunity to be the player that he wants to be because he's doing the extra things that he needs to do. He's not doing it for show. He's not doing it, because the coaches are asking him to do it. He's doing it because this is the way he's become. It's a lifestyle for him. It's no longer, okay, I'm going to just do this and see what happens. No, it's a lifestyle. Why? Because he's seen the fruit of it. He explained, I was a D-line before. Then they switched me to offense. And I worked my ass off to be one of the best offensive linemen, in college and in the draft. So to me, as long as he has that work ethic, because we know he has the talent, as long as he has that work ethic, he's going to get better.
The challenging part of it is because what I hear a lot of is this guy is coachable. This guy is an athlete that is able to adapt. He's multifaceted. There's so many things that I hear in that I like just because to me that's what an athlete is, right? You're versatile. He's probably played more than one sport. He's probably done different things. He's able to adjust when they ask him to do different things. I think that will help him do this task that he's trying to do, switch back over to left tackle and be a day one starter. There's a lot of pressure on him to do that. But that is still a very tough ask. But I like the fact that they think he's got the acumen to be able to do that. The hard part is it's not like you can keep him in AAA for 6 games, 7 games, and say, okay, now he's got it. Now let's bring him up to the bigs. That's what a lot of other sports have the ability to do. He is going to be asked to be on opening day the left tackle. So there's going to be some growing pains. So I hope that he adapts quickly, and he does seem to have all the tools to do that. He does seem like he's got the confidence as well to do that. He's very likable. There's no question.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know anything about J.C. Latham. The first time I'd ever heard him speak was after the Titans drafted him. He did a press conference with the media and just kind of talked about his journey, answered some questions. But I felt like I got the feeling from him. Now, again, does this mean that he's going to be an all-pro left tackle? No, it doesn't necessarily. But I got the feeling from him that he's going to do everything in his power to do so, which I go back to Isaiah Wilson, which I feel like it's not necessarily fair, but it's going to be a comparison that's made naturally just because of how many years this franchise has gone through just searching for the left tackle and how many swings and misses the Titans have had at left tackle over the past couple of years. But to me, the issue with Isaiah Wilson wasn't ability. Isaiah Wilson was a starting left tackle at Georgia. It was the matter of, I don't think he cared about it. Like, he cared about partying more. He cared about everything off the field, what came with the NFL, rather than what you say all the time, D-Mase. What can I do for the NFL versus what can the NFL do for me? If J.C. Latham doesn't work out, knock on wood, if J.C. Latham doesn't work out, I don't think it's going to be a matter of effort. I don't think it's going to be a matter of he didn't want it badly enough. It might just be a matter of it just that move from right to left just doesn't fit. Just not a natural fit for him. And what a breath of fresh air that is to know that this guy's going to do everything in his power to do it. And now, again, I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't know what J.C. Latham's career as a Titan is going to look like. But we've had so many conversations about, Caleb Farley is hurt again. Traylon Burks is hurt again. Of, whether it's a matter of if it's their fault or not, first-round picks for the Titans just haven't been available and haven't been able to contribute to this football team. Knock on wood, I hope J.C. Latham stays healthy, but it's never going to be a matter of J.C. Latham doesn't want it enough, just based off of that press conference. I don't want to overreact to one press conference and a handful of practices, but that's my impression so far.
Seems very coachable. He's got a presence about him.
Yeah. I mean, he's a typical offensive lineman. That's what he is. And that's not a bad thing, Offensive linemen, to me, one, they set the tone, I believe, for the team. They're just a different breed of players. Those guys, for the most part, they are thinkers. Offensive linemen are thinkers. That's just what they are. You have to be at that position because so much is coming at you, and you have to, pre-snap, post-snap. You have to be thinking all the time, stunts, twists, blitz, everything else. And I think he falls right in line with what I believe a good offensive lineman or a good offensive line is. So to me, it's good to hear him, talk about some of these things. And it seems like, he's learning pretty quickly here. But we know we have a long way to go. But I think everybody, over at that facility at this point, especially on offense, I think they are pleased with, him adjusting from one side to the other. Now, listen, he still has a long way to go. We haven't gotten him pads yet. He hasn't faced another defensive end that is not his defensive end or tackle. So there's going to be a lot to see come late July, August. But right now, I think everything is pointing in the right direction now, and you just hope it stays that way.
I'm with you. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to get in on the conversation. Plus, coming up next, we want to continue the conversation about J.C. Latham and some more of our takeaways from minicamp and what we want to see in OTAs next week. But also, Charles Robinson said something about the wide receiver market, how it pertains to DeAndre Hopkins. And it's an angle that, frankly, I haven't thought about yet. And I want to get D-Mace's reaction, want to get Willy's reaction to that. Does it really affect DeAndre Hopkins? And how the Titans proceed with DeAndre Hopkins. We'll get into that coming up next. Again, 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
talked about DeAndre Hopkins. I think a deal like this is going to take some teams out of the running. If like Ayuk and Higgins hit free agency next year, I think there are going to be some teams that tap out and go, we don't want to do this. We don't want to get into this, or we can't afford because we've got other guys to pay to get into this sort of arms race for these second-tier wide receivers. Let's go patch it up with one of these guys that's 30-plus years old, who's a free agent next offseason, and sign a 1 or 2 year deal. So I think it will actually help even some of these aging guys that are going to be in the mix in free agency offseason. And as Joe said last week, I'm like, maybe you do want to try to get ahead of Hopkins if you think he's got a year or two left.
That was Yahoo Sports' Charles Robinson on with Robbie and Rexroad earlier this week. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase were broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. So Charles Robinson there talking about the wide receiver market, how Justin Jefferson's deal will affect the wide receiver market. And I think whenever we have this conversation, it's easy to talk about, okay, how does this affect Jamar Chase? How does this affect CeeDee Lamb? Like the certified number one receivers that franchises value very much, along with Justin Jefferson and the Vikings. Who is their Justin Jefferson? I think Jamar Chase is going to get the Justin Jefferson deal. I think CeeDee Lamb will get the Justin Jefferson deal because that's just what the market is. So Charles Robinson saying there, it's not necessarily going to affect the dollar amount that DeAndre Hopkins will get in that next deal, but the market will adjust kind of those second-tier receivers. He brings up Brandon Ayuk, and Brandon Ayuk is a damn good receiver, but he's not a Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. So the price is going to go up for guys like Brandon Ayuk, but there might be teams with other free agents similar to Brandon Ayuk that look at it and say, look, I can't pay you $28 million a year because we just don't think you're worth that. So we'll go out and get a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, a veteran that we can get on the cheap on a year-to-year deal that can be impactful for our team. I don't know if I can get on board with that.
Okay. Does Jefferson or Chase's contract coming up or CeeDee Lamb's contract coming up, is it a trickle-down effect to D-Hop? I don't think necessarily it is. If D-Hop was 25, 26, working on his next big, like, this is his big contract. He was going through his rookie contract, and this is his next big contract. Yeah, I think it affects him then because now he's in that window of youth and production and potential continuing to rise. So that inherently would affect what he would get because it's, tides raise all boats. So Jefferson rose it. It'll automatically raise up the next young stud that's out there, which is why Chase will end up getting possibly a little bit more, or CeeDee Lamb may end up getting possibly what Jefferson got or a little bit more. Why? Because Jefferson set the ceiling for guys of his caliber, and we know CeeDee Lamb and Chase is of his caliber, and then right behind him is going to be Tyreek Hill because he's going to want an extension to his. AJ already got his.
And I think even if you don't think CeeDee Lamb is as good as Justin Jefferson is, he's still going to get paid like
he's still going to get paid. He is. He's pretty good. He's as good. As Jefferson.
But we've seen it with quarterbacks.
Exactly.
Like, quarterbacks
happens.
get massive deals,
and
even
then
if
the
they're
next
not
guy,
as good as that next guy or the guy that got the deal before
Exactly.
them.
So that's how this league works. So if D-Hop was in that age range of 25 to 27, this would directly affect him because his contract will be up next. But when you're in your 30s and, teams are like, we're not looking to pay a veteran wide receiver, $20 million. We just not, especially a guy that we believe is going to give us maybe 2 good seasons. Not great seasons, but good seasons. Will he be productive? Yes, D-Hop will be productive. But teams are looking at it as, will he be productive enough for us to have to pay him $25 million? I think I heard somebody say, well, yeah, I mean, he'll get $20 million. No, Again, he's going to get another contract.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure someone is going to give him that much money because they're projecting it long term. Like, listen, he's not getting any younger. He's not getting any faster. You know, things are slowing up for him. Can he catch the ball? Yes, he can. But we are not going to be on the hook for him at $20-something million and then he gets hurt or something happens or one of these young studs come along and they outplay him and then we got to put them in front of him. I'm not giving him $20 million. I will pay him, but I'm not paying him just because Jefferson got, $40-something million. I'm not then going to say, well, since Jefferson got that, D-Hop, I was going to give you 10, now I'm going to give you 20. No, it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. So, Jefferson's contract affects those young guys that are coming up wanting contracts. The older guys, it doesn't affect them that much. And until I see it, I'm not going to believe it.
But I think Charles's point was, and if you interpret it differently, let me know. Mm-hmm. His point was teams will be more inclined to go after a D-Hop, a reliable veteran, because they will be cheaper than some of these younger second-tier receivers that are looking for that next contract that might not be a Jefferson deal, but significantly more than what they would have gotten pre-Jefferson deal. Like we can pay Brandon Ayuk 25, or we can pay D-Hop 15.
I don't think teams are not going to operate like that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think teams are going to operate like that. If you're worth the 25, they're going to pay you, because if they don't pay you, if you don't get it from them, you're going to get it from somebody else, no matter what.
Somebody's going to pay Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, somebody's going to pay Brandon Ayuk. You can't sit back and say, man, we'll take D-Hop. Brandon Ayuk and D-Hop, that's not even in comparison. I'm talking about as far as future production. It's not even a comparison, because obviously, D-Hop is at the tail end of his career.
He's
and
a year-to-year
Ayuk is
guy.
just starting. He is a year-to-year guy. And there's nothing wrong with being a year-to-year guy. I know guys don't like that. I wouldn't like it if I was a young guy. Mm-hmm. If I was 22, 23, 20, I wouldn't like it if I was a year-to-year guy, because there's no stability in that. But if I have already got my big contracts, being a year-to-year guy, that's cool with me, as long as, because if I go out and produce, you're going to pay me something. You're going to pay me a little bit less of what the average is for top receivers. You're going to pay me. So if the average of top receivers is, this receiver's period is like 12 million, 15 million, you're going to be somewhere in that ballpark, probably a little bit less, because they're thinking, or a lot of it will be tied to incentives. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, we'll pay you a base of 7 or 8, but we'll give you these incentives that you can possibly reach as well. So, and if I'm in that situation, I'm not haggling. Like, dude, I'm closer to retirement than anything. And you want to give me $8, $9, $10 million and then incentives? Bring it on, because I know I'm going to get those incentives.
And from the Titans' standpoint, I think you're in, once again, a mode of, what do I have in the coming years? I'm building a winner. And therefore, a player at the stage of D-Hop's career, you're willing to ride it out. You don't need to jump out there now and say, oh, look at the market, I got to get him signed through next year. I think you wait and see how it goes this year. Mm-hmm. If it goes well, you have him in your court. Try to keep him. That's your advantage. But you can wait. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to worry about where the market is going, because it's a unique case. Once you get into that 30-something age, it is definitely year to year. And I'm trying to eye, what's my nucleus? Where's my nucleus for the next winning Titans team? Because D-Hop is probably not a part of it.
Yeah, and you can't keep and I understand why, this has become sort of a topic, because he's a good player.
He's a great player.
And you try to hold on to good players. But when a good player is aging out, then you got to make the decision as an organization. How do we segue out of this? Teams have done it. Teams are going to continue to do it. Again, I'm only going by my experience. This experience reminds me of the experience I had in Baltimore toward my last 2 or 3 years there, where they had these veteran guys for this young quarterback. But, it was myself, it was Starworth, it was, why am I forgetting? I don't know why I'm forgetting. The kid from Cincinnati went to UT, the receiver. God, why am I forgetting his name? And I'm so mad.
Not Carl Pickens.
Not Carl Pickens, no. God, I'm forgetting his name. But they had us 3 on the roster, and we're veteran. All 3 of us are veteran guys. Then they had a young guy, Mark Clayton. Well, everyone was a 1-year deal pretty much except myself, because I had signed a deal earlier. as we started to get older, they started to segue one by one from all of us. They were getting younger. Then the next season, they let, Starworth go, and again, I can't remember his name. I don't know why I can't remember his name. And they let the other guy go. They brought in Anquan Bolden. They had me and Anquan Bolden. And then they had Mark Clayton, and they had another young guy. And then after that, it was like, okay, now Mason's gone. Now we're drafting Torrey. Now we're going to bring in other guys. Baltimore's trying to get younger, all while trying to keep a veteran guy in place for the quarterback, for Joe Flacco. And it worked because they won a Super Bowl. The Titans are it seems like they're doing that too, where they're trying to put enough pass catchers around Will Levis, veteran pass catchers, but eventually they're going to segue out of those veterans pass catchers, because next year they're going to go out and depending on what Traylon does, they're going to go out and they're going to draft a receiver in the first round. Yeah. If there's a first round receiver worthy of that, they're going to draft a receiver in the first round. Why? To pair him to Calvin Ridley. Yeah. As Calvin Ridley started to age out, and then they're going to bring another young veteran guy in to help out with it. So they're going to try to keep this position young. You can't keep re-signing guys but then expecting something different, because you're getting older at that position. You want to get younger at the quarterback, meaning at the wide receiver position, not older. And to me, if indeed, and they may keep D-Hop, I don't know, but to me, you got 3 veteran guys on this roster. You got to get young somehow. You have to. And you got to get young quickly.
That's why I don't think the Titans should be in any rush to re-sign.
That's what I'm saying.
Hopkins. Yeah. Charles Robinson saying there, do you want to get ahead of it? Well, I don't really know why the Titans would have to. If the Titans choose to re-sign DeAndre Hopkins because they look at his production this upcoming season, let's say D-Hop has another great year and he shows 0 signs of slowing down, and the Titans are like, look, if we can re-sign him to a 1-year deal where we're not breaking the bank and we can still go out and find a young receiver to build this young core and just have D-Hop as a veteran piece to kind of, slowly fade out of this current era into the next one in the wide receiver room, then great, then fine. If that's what they want to do on a short-term deal, do it on a short-term deal. I don't feel the need to do that right now. And I asked him this when he joined our show earlier this week. Has wide receiver become the second most important position in football? Has it become the most important position outside of the quarterback? Because at least the wide receiver market in Justin Jefferson's most recent deal would say, yeah, the receiver is the second guy you pay. You pay the quarterback and you pay the receiver. Whereas maybe in, 10 years ago, it was the quarterback, left tackle, cornerback, and edge rusher. And of course, all of those positions are still very much so important. But the value and the financial investment in wide receivers, it's unprecedented at this point.
Because it would seem like it's easier to find the wide receivers. There should be more of them than there are the great left tackle, the great edge rusher. But it is interesting how the trend is going that way.
It is. And the Titans don't have that receiver to pay. We're not talking about, okay, well, are the Titans going to pay XYZ $40 million whenever his contract is up in 3 years? Because that guy doesn't exist. So it seems like to be a consistently contending team, you don't have to have a Justin Jefferson necessarily, but you do need to have that guy. Right now, the Titans don't have that guy. You got to find him somehow. And most
they're
likely
trying to
in the
compensate
draft,
by paying 3 veterans.
It's a short-term
decent
fix
amount
for
of
right now.
Right. And so I would be in the mindset, and this is just me, but if the season goes the way I think it's going to go, I think you have to leave open the possibility of not necessarily extending D-Hop or even Boyd, but also are those trade pieces at the deadline. This is,
depending
again,
on how the team's going.
Depending on how the season's going. And this is, again, I think, a flaw in the NFL. I would make the trade deadline, the salary cap, more conducive to trades. I don't think there's enough trades in the NFL. I think you could have some really fascinating things. It just doesn't ever go the way that I think it's going to go, but I would love to see more football trades. But for where the Titans are, if Hopkins is playing well, I would think he's a very attractive trade piece to a team that's trying to win this year. And if you evaluate yourself as, look, we're not going to win this year, and you could get a second or a third round pick, something like that, then I think you got to be open to that.
Depending where Will Levis is at, I think.
That's a part of it, too. I'm sure we'll talk about that in the fall.
Yeah. Oh, Absolutely.
I'm sure that will be a topic in the fall.
Absolutely. And for me, it's not, okay, how can D-Hop help this team win as many games as possible? Obviously, that's a factor. Obviously, you need to win football games, and you want to win football games. It's more so, to me, does Will Levis still need that support system of DeAndre Hopkins? And if that's the case, because when is the trade deadline? Like week 6?
Yeah, it's early.
Week 7? It's
Depends
early,
on when your buy is. Yeah.
I think it's week 7, 8, somewhere around there.
Depends on your
Depending
buy,
on-
how many
yeah,
games you play.
Exactly. It could be the 7th. It could be the 8th week. But I know it's in October.
Yeah, last year it was like around Halloween.
Right around
Yeah,
Halloween.
Exactly. So
I
it's
love the
late
Titans
October.
schedule. By the time, because the Titans play October 27th and then November 3rd. So the Lions and then the Patriots. I'm guessing the trade deadline is going to be somewhere in between there. By the trade deadline, if we're going to go by, it's Halloween. The Titans will have played the Bears, the Jets, the Packers, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Bills, and then the Lions. 7
November
games.
5th. November 5th is the trade deadline.
Okay, so 8 games. So you'll have the Lions and then the Patriots.
So they
You'll
did
have
move
played
it
8
back
games.
maybe about a week. It was Halloween last year. So this year it's November 5th.
Okay, so after week.
I like that. The further to me, it should be about
The further
halfway.
out,
Halfway
it should be
is about
halfway.
right.
Yeah, it should be in the halfway.
I think you get more interesting trades whenever it's later in the season because
Yeah.
you have teams that, okay, we know we're bad, and teams that are like, okay, maybe we didn't know we were going to be this good, but we are this good, and we could be one guy away, one trade away. But at that point, by week 8, I don't really expect to have a definitive answer about what Will Levis is. And if DeAndre Hopkins helps me, and I'm saying me, like, the Titans front office, helps the Titans front office figure out if he is the guy or not, and DeAndre Hopkins is that security blanket for Will Levis, then I say, hey, what will we possibly get in return for DeAndre Hopkins? Is that more valuable than a veteran pass catcher for our young quarterback that we're trying to figure out? Like, is he a franchise quarterback or not?
Yeah, and that's something that, I think we will know at some point. Not necessarily is he the franchise, but is he capable of leading us to victory more times than not? And it's going to take more than a season to truly know whether he's the franchise quarterback or not, because we've seen guys come out, have good seasons, and they come back and their seasons are not as good. And then you're trying to now you put all your eggs in this basket, and then you find out, man, this guy's really not who we thought he was. So I think it's going to be a little bit later whether we find out he's the true guy for this position. It'd be more toward the end of the season into next season, honestly, for me.
Also, how is Burks playing? Like,
how's
or
Burks
do you have
playing?
any other young pieces that are starting to show something? Because, look, I can't put everything around Will Levis. It's really important, but I'm trying to build. I got to build a winning roster. Like, that should go along with that. Should help Will Levis too. If I get extra draft picks that strengthen my entire team, that helps him be successful. Maybe not in the short term, but certainly in the long term. And I do have to think about the long term, not just the security blanket in the short term.
Not something we can say definitively right now.
Not at all. But I
It's the
think it's a
process.
mindset.
Yeah,
We were talking about
totally.
DeAndre Hopkins. If you're in the mode of we got to sign him, we got to. To me, it's wait and
dangerous.
see how
Just wait.
see how the story unfolds. There's no reason to be talking about that right now.
They don't have to do anything
No.
right now. And if there's a team that's willing to, throw the bag at D-Hop, okay.
They can't do it until the
then-
season's
yeah.
over. Like we
I-
got a long way to go.
That's what
you
I'm
know?
saying, is that if you were saying sign D-Hop right now out of the fear of losing him to a team that's going to pay him $20 million a year, let him. Let him. And I say that with the utmost respect for DeAndre Hopkins because he is a pro's pro. Tune into 102.5 The Game this Sunday for coverage of the Toyota Save Mart 350. Coverage will begin at 1:30 p.m. with the race starting at 2:30 p.m. Coverage also available on the 102.5
You see from Mason and Malik behind Will, and how do you go about trying to decide how much work to give each of those guys, not only now but moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's a competition. You know, they're going to both get a fair shake at the two job, and we're both up front with both those guys telling them that's how it's going to work. So they'll split reps pretty evenly. They'll get a chance to play quite a bit in the preseason. That's usually where it separates is the game action when you're really getting the evaluation. But happy with where both of those guys are at. You know, just like any competition, there's going to be ups and downs. There'll be days when you guys come out and one looks better than the other, and the evaluation is a totality of all their time in the offseason, in training camp, and in the preseason games. And so it's an ongoing evaluation, and there's going to be ebbs and flows, and guys will look good one day and not as good the other. And so you're trying to get their totality of work as to who's best equipped to be the number two.
That was Brian Callahan after practice yesterday on Mason Rudolph and Malik Willis. He said it's a competition. I understand that's what Brian Callahan has to say. Does anyone really buy that there is a backup quarterback battle between Mason Rudolph and Malik Willis?
No.
Nah, I mean, no, not really. But, I mean, that's something that I think as a head coach you have to say, even though you may think this guy has him beat slightly, like he would be the guy we go to if the season was to start and we needed a backup quarterback. He would be the guy that we more than likely would go to. You can't say that right now.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, because it's like then Malik is, or whoever the third quarterback is sitting back there thinking like, no matter what I do, I'm not going to be elevated.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure the only way you're going to be able to get a true assessment of the quarterbacks behind Will Levis is if you make it a competition, right? Make it known. Yeah, it's a competition. They're competing, but you know in your mind, listen, this guy is further than him. But in order to try to get the best out that third guy, we got to say, hey, listen, this is a competition, and, you know, we will decide once camp is done, whoever outplays the other, that's who's going to be the starter. But we know, unless Malik Willis is, 10 times better than what he was last year, and he could be, I don't know. But more than likely you defer to Mason Rudolph because he's a veteran guy. He's been in these positions. He's won some games in this league. So you just defer to him. But I understand why he had to say it.
I think unless Rudolph gets hurt or somebody gets hurt in the training camp, Willis is probably a practice squad number 3, right? I think you could stash him on the practice squad. I don't think he's got any value.
Because you can keep 3 quarterbacks. You don't have to stash.
Well, I mean, on a game, there's
you can elevate him on a game day.
Yeah,
game day.
You can just keep him on the practice squad.
But you don't have to put him on your 53. Is that right?
No, he does not count on your 53 on game day.
Yeah,
that third quarterback.
On game day, but you can have him. But there's no.
But I'm saying, if he's on your practice squad, somebody at any time could pluck him.
Yeah, somebody can pluck him. Yeah,
and make him the number 2. I'm willing to take that risk at this point with Willis. I think he's sunk that low stock wise.
Even if Mason Rudolph gets hurt, I think the Titans go out and bring in another backup quarterback.
That's how I would see it right now.
Yeah,
and I think we would all be excited if that changes, but that's. I think it's a show me at this point.
And the lack of a backup quarterback battle, and look, that's what Brian Callahan has to say, and I think that's the right thing to do at this point in the offseason. Backup quarterback battle, make them battle it out. Iron sharpens iron. That's what they probably should do, but I think we all know. And the lack of a backup quarterback battle, I don't think really has anything to do with Mason Rudolph because I don't think he's very good. I don't think he's any sort of world beater. It has more to do with Malik Willis. The fact that in year 2 we still didn't see progress, it leaves very, 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 very little hope to me that he can take that step forward and be a legitimate backup quarterback in this league. I think at this point, that's probably the ceiling.
Yeah, and that's something that he has to come to grips with if indeed that is the case. I'm trying to think. Neal's backup, the third quarterback was Daff, right? Kevin Daff?
For a while, yeah, before Volek came in.
Before Volek. And there was never this,
they never had
quarterback.
To use
yeah, there was never this, it's a quarterback battle for the number 2. Is it Neal O'Donnell or Kevin Daff coming in? No, it was Neal O'Donnell.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so
like if I'm Mason Rudolph, I'm like,
yeah,
wait
it's like
come on.
Yeah, like if I just continue to do the things that I've been doing, I have enough confidence that I know I'm the backup quarterback. Like, I don't think you're going to do that much, to supersede me, improve that much. Now, we could. Hey, anything can happen, but realistically, are you going to improve that much to jump over Mason Rudolph?
And listen, I'll say it right now. I don't care if Malik Willis lights it up in the preseason games and Rudolph looks terrible. Rudolph is still the backup quarterback until further notice.
Yeah. Well, because
Rudolph played some good football last year, some very good football. He played in the playoffs. Like, he got them to the playoffs.
He played football last year.
Yeah.
Well, so did Malik Willis.
Threw a ball,
threw
a touchdown.
Yeah, Malik Willis played some games last year. Didn't look very good.
He played one game.
Did he play the preseason? Whenever Will Levis
he played most of the preseason games. Yeah.
He didn't get in during the regular season.
He played a little bit. He went to London and.
I don't think so.
Well, the London game he did.
Oh.
Yeah, he did play one or two. Because Will got hurt. Both of the quarterbacks got hurt.
Oh, that was so
bad. And then he had to come in.
What was it? 5 plays, 4 sacks, something like that.
Something ridiculous like that. Yeah.
I mean, he played in 3 games, 5 passes.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Mason Rudolph. It's gonna be Mason Rudolph. But I get it. Brian Callahan has to.
Yeah, he has to do that because it's competition. It's about competition.
Yeah.
And what is it? Iron sharpens iron. So you can't just, come in and give the job to him, because then it's not going. That doesn't breed competition. Now, it's one thing to name Will Levis the starting quarterback. That you have to do that.
Yes.
But as far as your backup, no, you want those guys to compete to get better. You just don't want to walk in, Rudolph is the quarterback, and then now it's like there's no competition.
Yeah. Man, that London game, that one hurts.
I enjoyed it.
Hurts.
I enjoyed being there with my daughter. That's all I did. I enjoyed just
if I
watching
could be in London, it would hurt a lot less.
Exactly.
Hurts a little bit more when I'm watching it from a couch.
Would we say this? There's a lot better chance that Rudolph, in some form, looks good enough to where the question starts getting asked: Should you play Rudolph over Levis?
I don't
then it
want
will
to get to
be
that point.
Play Willis over Rudolph. That's
Willy,
the scary
I don't
question.
Get to that point.
That's a scary question.
I think there's a slim chance, but I would agree that is more likely than Malik Willis taking the backup quarterback job.
I think a lot would have to happen, but this is Rudolph did play well last year. We talked a lot yesterday about Will Levis's QBR being so low. Rudolph, it was a small sample size, but he saved the season. He won 3 starts late with a QBR of 70.6. That's good. Yeah. Well, they went in a totally different direction quarterback wise. They got 2 different guys.
And I don't really think that they upgraded.
We'll find out. I'm not sitting here telling you that Mason Rudolph is the answer, but I'm not ruling out that Levis could really struggle for a while, and you'd have people going, hey, man, we got this veteran. Let's see what he looks like.
I can picture it now.
Yeah.
It's October 21st, and Adam from Portland calls in and says, should we play Mason Rudolph? I'm just picking on Adam if you're listening. But I can see a world where that would be the case. But frankly, right now, I cannot see a world in which Malik Willis leapfrogs Mason Rudolph as the backup quarterback.
So put it in context.
Yes.
Don't go running with this and say, Willie says that Rudolph's going to beat out Levis. No.
Oh, yeah, I'm saying that. Oh, my goodness, I'm saying that, Willie.
You said it. That's what you said.
Uh-huh.
All right, coming up next, I'm going to switch to the Predators front. We talked to Elliot Friedman yesterday about the goalie market, and we just talked about the wide receiver market. That massive deal from Justin Jefferson, what does that mean for everyone else? Well, Igor Shesterkin in New York, he is going to get the Justin Jefferson equivalent of goalie deals, an unprecedented goalie deal, a massive goalie deal. How does that affect UC Saros? And also, how did we just become super famous? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Tune into 102.5 The Game this Sunday for the coverage of the Toyota Save Mart 350. Coverage will begin at 1:30 p.m. with the race starting at 2:30 p.m. Coverage also available on the 102.5 The Game app and at thegamenashville.com.
Let's talk about Zen Sports, people, the new sports book in Tennessee that is bringing sports betting to a whole new level. And I mean that literally, people. When you sign up for Zen Sports, you'll automatically earn up to $1,000. No danger first wager. If your first bet loses, check this out. You'll be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $1,000. Plus, Zen Sports offers the true odds on all parlays and boosted same-game parlays for all Tennessee sports teams. That means boosted up to 20% over other books in Tennessee. And there's even more good news, people. Zen Sports offers a one-of-a-kind VIP reward program. If you qualify, you'll earn monthly comps at sporting events, concerts, you name it, even sport book bonuses. The VIP program is by invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. So what are you waiting for, people? The daily same game parlay boost. Go quick. Bam, like that. So get going and download their app at zensports.com today. That's Zen Sports, where betting just got better. And remember, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And we are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Ask D-Mase in 30 minutes. So get those questions in for Derek Mason. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll take your calls. We will take your texts. Anything that you want to ask D-Mase is on the table. So we'll get to that at 12:30. But first, want to kind of recap our discussion with Elliot Friedman yesterday. Because Igor Shesterkin, the goaltender in New York, one of the best, if not the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League, he is due for a contract extension. And one thing that Elliot talked about in the 32 Thoughts podcast last week, or maybe earlier this week, whenever it was basically, hey, like, maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but you can write a blank check to Igor Shesterkin and say, hey, name your price, whatever it is. So he's going to make a lot of money. He's going to be the highest paid goaltender in the NHL. So what does that mean for UC Saros? Well, Elliot Friedman kind of recapped our conversation on the most recent edition of the 32 Thoughts podcast of kind of what's the timeline that we're looking at here? What's the agent's ideal timeline? What's UC Saros' ideal timeline? What's Barry Trotz's ideal timeline? Team-friendly versus player-friendly. This is what Elliot Friedman had to say on the 32 Thoughts podcast.
Igor Shesterkin is going to absolutely impact UC Saros if he allows it to and doesn't just rush to do a deal before Shesterkin sets a new bar. That's why I think it's a big deal.
Okay, so this is one of those things. Like I do a weekly radio hit in Nashville, which I really like doing. Like Carolyn Fenton and Willy Donick and Derek Mason. I really enjoy talking to them. So Willie asked me today, like, do you think the agent for Saros, who's Kevin Epp, could wait for Shesterkin? I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, absolutely he could if that's what he wanted to do. And I filed this under one of those things that you just never know in the social media world what's going to take off. Like there's things that you say you think they're just normal and they go kablooey. And then there's things that say, oh, this is going to be a huge bomb, and it goes absolutely nowhere. Like there's no control over. And this is one of those things I said, this is perfectly normal. Like, of course the agent could wait. And the next thing I knew, it was going crazy. And I was like, wow, I didn't think I actually said anything crazy here. Look, I believe that the one thing I said that I really stick to is that one of the reasons I think Saros' name got out in the trade rumors around the deadline this year, and at one time I said I thought it was about 50-50, is that if the negotiations had gone really well, I don't think there would have been any chance he was getting traded. And I do think the Predators and his representatives met and they talked about him being a Predator for life. And then when the two sides started talking about parameters of a contract, it wasn't in a place that Nashville was comfortable with. And it's all negotiation, and you see what happens, and I understand the negotiations are rarely linear, so these things go on. I tend not to freak out about them. So when they brought up, could he wait because Shesterkin's going to sign a big number? I'm like, yeah, absolutely certain it could happen. But again, just because that is a tactic of the agent and what he should do, it doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to end up. And that's the one thing here. It sure sounds to me like Saros and the Predators would like to continue this marriage. You just got to get to a number. And Barry Trotz even said at the end of the season, like, don't be surprised if this goes past July 1st. So I think even he, like most general managers, is looking not necessarily where we are, but where we're going.
Again, that was Elliot Friedman on the 32 Thoughts podcast. Appreciate the shout out there.
Yeah.
I don't know who Carolyn Fenton is, but I'm sure she's a pretty cool chick.
Is that your long-lost sister or something?
Yes, we have almost the same name,
exactly.
but different.
Is she a brunette?
Well, she's famous then.
Is that what that is?
They know her over in Canada now.
Oh, yeah, she's huge in Toronto.
She's huge in Toronto.
Yeah, everybody loves her in Toronto. So appreciate the shout out to Elliot. A couple of things there that I wanted to get into. First, let's kind of talk about the timeline. I agreed with Elliot there in how I was surprised how it kind of blew up a little bit, how there was a lot of hyperfixation on how Elliott said, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Saros' agents are trying to wait until after Shesterkin signs his deal to get that deal, get Saros' deal signed. It kind of felt common sensey to me, right? Like you let the elite guy who's gonna sign the massive contract, sign the massive contract, so it bumps everybody else up, at least in theory. That's how marketplaces work. So that wasn't really a massive shock to me. And that absolutely could be the way that Saros' agents want to play this. But my question is, well, what's Barry Trotz's ideal timeline? Correct me if you think differently. I do not feel that Barry Trotz wants to hurry up and get this deal signed before Shesterkin signs his deal. I think Barry Trotz is okay with letting things play out. And if we need more time to negotiate, we need more time to negotiate. We're on our timeline, not necessarily Shesterkin's. I could be wrong in that evaluation, but that's how I feel.
It's a really good question because I do think if you run it the way you want to run it, you are able to keep the outside factors from having you diverge from your plan, right? I think you want to have your plan and stick to your plan. Sometimes things that happen outside of your plan can affect what you're able to do, and I think this is absolutely one. That's why I don't think this is earth-shattering news, like Elliott mentioned. Like Shesterkin is going to set the bar. It's just like we have these conversations about CD Lamb versus what Justin Jefferson just signed for. It does affect the market. Same thing happened with A.J. Brown. That was a huge reason why they traded A.J. Brown. The market changed, and they didn't want to go there, and they paid the price for it. So this is something that happens, especially with the salary cap going up, which is happening in the NHL. So does that mean, though, that you change your strategy if you're Barry Trotz? I think you have to be aware that Shesterkin and Ottinger are going to probably sign new deals this summer, and that will probably affect they will be used as comps for Saros because those are three of the best. You know, pick however many you want to put in that group. The group is probably no bigger than 6 or 7 goalies who have been as good as those guys have been over the last 3 to 4 seasons. And Shesterkin is the best. I think that's the thing. You're not going to say, well, Saros is going to try to get more than Shesterkin. It's going to be whatever Shesterkin gets, Saros will slide under, but his agent is going to use that as a comparable, right?
Do you
That's just how it works.
The ceiling may have elevated. He's not going to get 12. If Shesterkin gets 12, Saros isn't getting 12. And if he wants 12, sorry, Saros.
Yeah.
Well,
that's I think that's to me
else.
That was the thing that Elliott put out there that had everybody going, whoa.
The 12.
12 million. Because he used the gauge he used was percentage of the new salary cap. And he used Carey Price, who is, and I think everybody would say that deal hasn't worked out great for Montreal. As great as Carey Price has been when he's been healthy, he's had a lot of health issues and mental health issues, unfortunately. And when he's played pretty well. But $10.5 million, that's a heavy price to pay. Vasilevsky makes what, $9.75 or $10? I can't remember exactly. He's right up there too. Let's assume that Shesterkin's going to try to get into that realm, maybe a little higher, even though he's never won a cup, never been to a cup final. I would say it's going to be a pretty interesting negotiation. But the reason Elliott used 12 was percentage of the cap based on a new number of 87.7, which is what we think the cap is going to be. And so if you took the percentage of price and you add the new height of the salary cap, that equates to about $12 million. And I think all of us in our mind were thinking Shesterkin, if he got the most, it would be in the 10.5, maybe 11. And I think if you're Barry Trotz, you're probably hoping it comes in a little bit under that. Yeah. And you hope it comes under that because Shesterkin might be smart enough to say, look, I want to play on a team that's loaded. Mm-hmm. I don't want to take up too much of a percentage of the salary cap. I want to get what I deserve, but I also want to leave enough room to win it. The Tom Brady kind of mentality, right?
And I think that's what, the Predators are going to have. They're going to try to get across to UC Saros. Like, listen, yeah, we can possibly pay you that extra $2 million, or whatnot, but that may not allow us to add the pieces around you that we may need, that is going to ultimately help you in your career. So I think that would be one option that the Predators will use. But then again, do y'all think the Predators are negotiating from a place of strength in this?
See, that's a good question.
Uh-huh.
I think they are to some degree.
do.
Because I look at it because of Askarov.
Yes, that gives, I think, the Predators at least a little bit more leverage. I think the Rangers are in a position right now where it's like, what do you want? We'll give you what you want. We'll pay you what you want. They're not in a position to say, oh, you want 11.5? That's a little bit too much for us. Go ahead and hit the market.
They got to try to come at another angle with that.
Exactly. I do think the Predators are in a position to say, if you want something that we are not willing to give you, we're not going to sign you. Because Barry Trotz did talk about, hey, I do have a price for Saros. And obviously the price was very high, and Barry Trotz said, you're going to have to blow me away. But we were talking about it being a legitimate possibility that UC Saros could be traded at the trade deadline this past year. So Barry Trotz has thought about life without UC Saros. I don't know to what extent. Obviously, I'm not in New York. I'm not a Rangers fan. I don't know what the conversations they're having about Shesterkin is. But I don't think that the Rangers have as much leverage with Shesterkin as maybe the Predators do, where the Predators can say, okay, well, if you want $12 million, we're not going to pay you $12 million. If you're not willing to come off of that, maybe we will go into a different direction because we do have a young phenom. And although he's not ready yet, we do have a vision for when he is ready, and we can patch up that position in the time being because we just can't give you what you want. I do think that the Predators have a certain sense of leverage in that right, and also because Saros has said, I want to be here. I do think that there is a little flexibility that Saros might be willing to have. And if he doesn't want to be flexible, if he doesn't want to get that hometown discount or give that hometown discount rather, I wouldn't blame him either. This is UC Saros' opportunity to cash in. This is the contract. So if he says, no, I'm not taking $7 million, it's 8.5 no matter what. And that's as low as I'm going to go. I wouldn't blame him from that perspective. And I don't think that 8.5 is a ridiculous number to ask for. But I do think that the Predators do have a certain sense of leverage in the fact that we've already gone down this road. We've already imagined potentially a life without UC Saros.
So there's a couple other comparables. One of them is Ilya Sorokin, who is around that same age range, and I think he's at 8.5. I think that's another comparable to keep your eye on.
He's at 8.5 right now.
He's under a new deal that he just signed a year or so ago. It might just kick in for the first time this year. $8.5 million. So all that to say, another factor I think they try to sell UC Saros on, and UC Saros is well aware of this because he's seen a lot of his teammates go through it. And is it your money? $8 million in Nashville goes a lot further than $8 million in New York. In fact, we had Nick look at this. So if you're Shesterkin and you live in New York, I think we all know the cost of living in New York is a lot, and the taxes in New York. So what did you put in there, 10 or 12? What did you use, Nick, as a reference point?
I used $8 million, just flat out.
Okay, so $8 million for the Predators, or if you played in Nashville, is worth what in New York?
$8.2 million.
That didn't make any sense.
That's what it says here.
$8 million in Nashville would be $8.2 million in New York?
For the cost of living, that is, if you're trying to equate it to Nashville living.
Because I've seen a little more extreme than that. It would be worth a lot more than just 8.2. Like that same dollar. Your Dodgers will go further.
I'm just putting into this calculator.
Whereas $8 million in New York is 8.2 in Nashville.
Yeah. Is it backwards?
It might be backwards.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
No. If it's not, then
but it's really not an overwhelming difference.
No, I don't. And that's what people, have to really, truly understand. Just because and I know a lot of people do, just because we don't have a state tax doesn't mean we're not getting taxed every other place. We have probably the highest or one of the highest sales tax, in the country. So they're fine. Government will find its way to get your money somehow, some way. It may not be as extreme as a New York or California I'm glad it's not. But they will find a way to get their money.
Okay, I just looked it up. So if I'm making $8 million in Nashville to maintain the current standard of living in New York, you would need to earn $18.5 million.
That can't be right.
I'd say
that sounds ridiculous
sounds
too.
very
half. That can't be right.
The other way.
Yeah.
That's
Where you living on Manhattan?
double.
You living right on Manhattan in a penthouse, $23 million?
In Central Park.
Good grief.
And it's amazing.
You got a doorman,
Love
a
it.
car, everything.
Come over for Christmas.
She said, forget about dollar pizza.
Oh, man.
I'm going to New
Well, I would never go to New York to live. If that's the case, like, man, no, I'm not going to New York. Don't draft me, please.
Maybe let's take the average of both of our findings and let's say it's somewhere between like 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a difference. I think we can say
Yes.
whatever the number is,
It's
there's
a difference. There's a
And
difference.
so that I think that's what if you're Shesterkin's agent, I think you're saying, okay, Igor, you got to make sure you're getting fair value here because it costs more to live in New York, and et cetera. If you're advising Saros, you might say, okay, it may not be perfect, but this is the equivalency. It may take a little money out of me, the agent. If I'm taking 1% or 2%, I get less, but I get it. This is an advantage of you staying in Nashville. You're making good money. It's about the same as if you were making X plus whatever in New York, and there's more room for your team to build the roster, whether it's 18 million or 200 grand. We got to somewhere in here is
somewhere
the
in the
accurate
middle.
number.
Yeah,
we got to check
somewhere in the
another
middle.
source.
I'm
here.
using
Like
a
a-
different source right now.
Yeah.
It's like the window of like when plumbers are going to come by. Well,
Yeah.
come by between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's
a kind of wide range.
pretty big,
window.
huh?
200 grand
You
or
can't,
18 million.
you can't narrow it down just a tad bit.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
couldn't be like
Yeah.
noon and 3. Like,
Exactly.
But it is something that I think has become, as the years have gone by, something that agents, players, and especially GMs are aware that when you have that advantage that Nashville does,
you better use it.
You use the advantage. Dallas has it. The Florida teams have it. Vegas has it. It's well known around the league, and that's what you fight if you're the Canadian teams and a team in a big market like New York or LA, something like that.
would we agree, going back to a point that I made earlier, would we agree that we don't feel like there is a sense of urgency from the Predators to get this deal done before the Shesterkin deal?
Urgency, I think you would love to get it done. I think, like you said, is Barry Trotz, would he be willing to let it play out into the season even? Like Chris Mason has brought this up. He said, what's wrong with letting it come into the season unresolved, seeing how it unfolds? You still have the option of trading him if you want. And, UC Saros would be sort of betting on himself. He could bounce back and have another Vezina caliber year, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I could have had him for $8 million in the summer. Now it's going to cost me $9.5. Imagine that. That could happen. There's a lot of ways it could go. I think it would be best for Barry Trotz to get it done sometime before the season starts, because another leverage point that Barry Trotz has, he's coming off of his worst year, Saros. And so he isn't quite, when you put him alongside Shesterkin, he comes up a little lower, and that could change if one great season happens for Saros and he leads them to a playoff victory and he has another Vezina. Then $10 million is not unrealistic at all, especially if he's on the verge of unrestricted free agency.
Right.
That is something that you have to think about.
So
And that's a gamble on
a big
Saros'
gamble.
part.
I think
yeah.
we have some movement here.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, we got a new site?
A new site, yes. It is giving me the net income. So
Okay.
if that gives you a little anything to
All
go
right,
off
that's
of.
better.
Okay.
$8 million flat, okay, for the salary, and for net income, and if it were Nashville, it would be $4.8 million. But if it were in New York, it would be, let's see here, scroll down, $3.8 million.
Okay, so it's about
$1 million
$200,000 difference.
Yeah.
200,000?
Yeah, because it's $4 million net and
Oh,
$3.8
okay.
million net.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
That's the best I
taxes,
could
they're
do.
going to take their taxes. So,
Yeah.
and that's
Not
if
huge.
that isn't if that seemed to be more accurate than 18 million. We knew it had to be somewhere in the middle, but that's what I talk about when I say, listen, I understand the tax differences between here and in New York. Best believe I played in both cities, and meaning both states. I know, But it's not like this overwhelmingly thing like, oh, my goodness, we can't go. If that was the case, no one would play in the state of New York. No one would play in any state outside of Texas, Florida, Arizona, Tennessee, places like that. But it's not the case. The government's going to get their money. Best believe they're going to get it.
I do think how much of it is, thinking
No,
about
there's
the
ways
taxes
you
and
can
the
kind
dollars
of
and
there's
cents.
ways you can kind of manipulate the loopholes within the tax code.
Yeah.
But if you're doing everything on the up and up, there's not much difference when you're making that much money. You see what I'm saying? There's not much difference.
I do think there's a certain sense of ego involved in it as
Yeah.
well. And maybe it's more of a receiver thing than it is a goalie thing. But I think that, going back to the AJ negotiations here, I think that he wanted a certain number because that's what other receivers
Yes.
got. And he viewed himself as just as good, if not better, than those receivers. So it's not about what is actually ending up in your bank account, although that's going to be really nice, whether, however you want to slice it. It's the fact that I am a $35 million receiver. Because you're going to need a lot of money no matter what.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into Ask D-Mase coming up next. Get those questions in for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll take your calls. We'll take your texts. September 15th at themusiccitygp.com. As the Racing Station 1025 The Game has a special offer only for a limited time. Use promo code GAME, G-A-M-E, for a 20% discount right now through June 16th.
D-Mase. He played 15 years in the NFL.
Quick throw. Touchdown, Derek Mason.
He had over 12,000 receiving yards.
Midfield, and there he goes. 80 yards for the touchdown.
And now you can ask him anything. Have a question about football or life? Now's your time to ask D-Mase.
We'll welcome you in.
Now on Caroline, Willy, and
D-Mase.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and The Game Nashville app.
Ask D-Mase. Get those questions in for Derek Mason. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have a question for D-Mase. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Do I hear that the suit is on the line?
The
With a question
suit
for
may
D-Mase?
be on the line. He's
Suit
on
has
the
just
line.
come in, and he's going full passion with the gold.
I'm
today.
here.
The suit without a suit, but he has
Full
on
passion.
the gold. He has on the gold.
Let's see. My question for D-Mase is, your first 3 years in the league when you weren't playing much and you were just special teams, whose fault was that?
You want me to be honest,
Pull the
or do you
pin,
want me to
throw
sort
the
of
grenade,
like,
and leave.
You know,
Uh-huh.
you want me to be like politically correct? Like, hey, listen, I had to work.
Oh, I want
my
the full.
way.
I want
be honest.
buses backing up right here.
Oh yeah. No, but listen, this. I'm only going to tell you the truth. When I walked into that building in Houston, because that's where we were at first, in Houston, and I walked out on that practice field. This is no slight to anybody else. But in my mind, I felt I was the best guy out there. That's just the way I felt. I did the things they asked me to do. So much so that Les Steckel asked me to learn all 3 positions. Didn't ask nobody else. He asked me to learn all the H, the X, and the Z. As a young player, I'm like, why? I'm not your first round pick or your second round pick. I'm your 4th round pick. Give me one thing to do so I can at least have an opportunity. But he saw something that, ultimately came to fruition that, hey, listen, this kid can play and we can put enough on his plate and he can handle it. And I was able to handle it. Go watch that 97 preseason. I balled out. No mistakes about it. Ask every coach there. I balled out. Ask them the next season. I balled out. Ask those defensive players. They'll tell you he did. That guy was balling. He was balling flat out. 3rd year, still ball. But I wasn't in the right headspace because they were playing these games with me. I thought I wasn't in the right headspace. But it took someone, another veteran guy, and everybody knows, Chris, I've told this story a million times, pulled me to the side and say, listen, don't allow them, what they do, the games they're playing, to affect how you approach your craft. Go out there, have fun, and then let everything else fall in place. And I took that and I ran with it. And I came in there with a smile on my face each day, and people like Les Steckel encouraged me every single day. And when I say every day, that's one person. Of all the people in the NFL, that was one person that encouraged me every single day I walked into that building. There was a note inside of my locker for me. Now, I'm sure he did it with Chris and some other guys, but that meant a lot to me. It wasn't that I couldn't play. I knew I can play. I knew that. It was just a headspace that I needed. I needed to be in the right headspace. And eventually we got there. It took for some things to happen. I get that. But I grabbed it and I did not relinquish it. So much so, I'm telling you, these are stories. I've had coaches pull me into meeting rooms, tone it down a little bit. And I'm like, no, this is how I got to where I'm at. Why in the hell should I tone it down?
You tone it down?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why should I tone it down? This is me. This is my superpower. I'm coming at you every play. I'm gonna be a dog about it. And I'm not backing up. That's just me. So don't dim my light. This is me. You don't like it? You don't like it. But what I am doing is producing. So I don't want to hear this other stuff. And it wasn't like I was causing like a fuss or a riff in the locker room or anything. It was just like I'm coming at you. That was my personality. Like, give me the ball. I want it. So to me, the minute I got there, I showed them that I can play in this league. It was their fault for not figuring it out until year 3 or 4. Not to say we didn't have other good receivers on that squad, because we did. Dice, Kent, Bird, guys that were there in the early years. Chris, we did. But in my mind, I was a dog. I knew where I came from. I didn't feel no one else had to go through what I had to go through in this game. Like, I was prepared. Going into Michigan State, I knew I was prepared to play in the NFL because it was an attitude about me. It was an attitude that was fostered at Michigan State in high school. You wasn't going to beat me. That's one thing you wasn't going to do. You wasn't going to outwork me. You wasn't going to beat me. You may have better talent. The talent may be better. But you, as far as outworking on that field, you weren't going to do that. That's one thing I was not going to allow to happen. So I knew I was as the young folks say, I knew I was that dude. I was him back then.
You are him.
It just took time for them to realize it. That, yeah, this kid can play. We need to put him in. So there we go.
So my second part of this is that why, like, I've worked with you a long time.
Uh-huh.
I haven't seen you this passionate about a player like you are with Traylon Burks. Is that because even though he's a first-round pick, you were a fourth-round pick, do you see some of what he's going through that you went through?
Yeah, I do.
Some of the same things?
Because it's like...
Sorry to take over.
No. You're good.
Well,
you're the boss. I mean, come on, man. Yeah, and that's why. Because I know in this sport, 2 things can happen in this sport. One, it may take a little time for you to come around as a player. 2, it may take a little time for the coaches to come around to realizing you are that dude. Those 2 things can happen. With Traylon, I'm so adamant about him. It's like he's only been in the league. This will be a 3rd year, right?
Yep.
3rd year. He's only been in the league going on 3 years. He haven't even had 2 full seasons yet, like a plane. And he's shown flashes, but then he's shown that he can't stay on the field for whatever reason. Injuries, concussions like that, some things you just can't help. But I do see the talent in this kid. He has the talent. Now what we're trying to figure out is, does he have the mental capacity in this situation to fight through it? The thing I would tell him was the same thing that Chris told me. Listen, go out there and don't allow what they're doing. Don't allow them bringing in Boyd and Ridley. Don't allow them to kill your joy. Don't, because they want to see where your headspace is. They want to see if you're just going to curl up like a baby and pout and moan, or are you going to fight through this thing? He needs to fight through it, because if he fights through it, I guarantee you, he has the talent. If he fights through this from a mental standpoint, he's going to end up being a number 1. He will, but he has to fight through it mentally. Mentally is where they're going to get him. Coaches play games with guys all the time from a mental aspect. They do, because they're trying to get the best out of you. They're trying to put you in certain situations and see how you react. Well, Traylon's in a situation, albeit some of his doing, but he's in the situation. Now they want to see how he reacts. If he reacts in a positive way, that means he's learning from what's going on. He's going to, but if he doesn't, if he pouts and moans and do some of these things that are not beneficial to him or the team, then they got their answer. They're going to cut his ass. They don't care. They're going to bring the next guy in. That's why I'm so adamant with him. Like, he has the talent. He just need to be in the right headspace. Once he gets in the right headspace, once he figure out, when you walk through that building, damn the coaches, damn everybody else, it's about you and your joy and your willingness to go out there and compete at a high level with a smile on your face. No matter what they do, they cannot steal what's inside of you. If you don't allow them to do that, the kid's going to prosper. He will. I guarantee you that.
And I'm sure he probably felt pissed off.
Oh, I'm sure he was. He
when
needed
the Titans
to be.
Went out and got Tyler Boyd and Calvin Ridley.
I was pissed off when they went and got Carl Pickens, Yancey
not?
I was pissed.
How would you not?
Yeah, so it's like.
But I'll take Chris Sanders a page out of his playbook. Mm-hmm. Don't get bitter.
Get better.
Get better.
Yeah, and it's true.
Which
that is true.
Chris Sanders' wisdom.
But it's true.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't know if you've thought about this, but I look at you and I look at your career, and because I even thought, like, going back and watching the Super Bowl, I'm like, why isn't Derek in? Like, why isn't Derek playing? Like,
because them fools didn't know no better.
Right. But if none of that happens to you, do you think you have the career that you had?
Oh, I still will. I'll go somewhere else and prosper. Didn't matter because I knew my work ethic, I knew my attitude, and my approach. Just because if you didn't like it, I was going to get on with another team somehow, some way. I was going to get on and I was going to excel. If they gave me an opportunity, I was going to excel. So if it didn't work out here, I'd have went somewhere else and it would have worked out. So, but they finally figured it out, I guess. They were forced into figuring it
Everybody
out.
got hurt.
Everybody got hurt. And it was like, okay, throw this Mason guy. Oh, my goodness, he can play.
But once you get the opportunity, you're not giving it back.
Oh,
Make
yeah.
it impossible for them to ignore you.
Absolutely. I wasn't changing who I was.
Yeah.
Just because now I got a starting role. I was a dog before the starting role, and I'm going to be a dog while I have the starting role. That's just my mentality.
More of your questions for D-Mase coming up
I'm
next.
done now.
Thank you, Sue.
615, unless you have another one, Sue.
Off air. Off air only.
615-733. Yeah, exactly.
You've hit your limit.
737-1025 is, you 2 questions and that's it.
Yeah.
All right? I don't care what title you have. More of your questions for D-Mase coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Hey, it's Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. We all go through it. I've been through it, believe me. Even though I've been an athlete just about I have been an athlete half of my life, but I still have gone through this disappointment of wanting to lose some weight and then figuring out, man, I still haven't lost the weight that I need, especially as I get older. But here's the solution, people. At Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and this is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Different approach, okay, people? Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific for you. Losing weight isn't just about working out, people. It's a lifestyle. It's a nutrition thing. You have to do a lot of things if you want to consistently lose that weight that you have been trying to lose for years, okay? So connect with Dr. Lodge and CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
Ask D-Mase. Right back into your questions for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to ask Derek Mason a question. We are right back to you. Our guy, Eric, is on the line with a question for D-Mase and, of course, a dad joke. What's up, Eric?
Hey, guys, like I said, about 90% of the dad jokes I do, I actually hear from other people. Only about 10% I make up myself. So this one I'm going to tell, I don't know how it's going to land. I always say that up front because I don't know how you're going to react to it. So here goes. So I recently had to go to the dentist for a dental appointment. While I was sitting in the chair, the dentist was looking at my teeth while I was waiting, and he said, I see that your teeth are seriously stained. And then he asked me, did I smoke or drink coffee? And I said, I drink coffee only.
Like you don't smoke coffee?
Yeah.
You smoke or drink coffee? Well, I tend to drink it, Yeah. But I'm sure if you wanted to smoke it, you could somehow, some way.
Yeah.
I mean,
you could probably smoke coffee beans. I
exactly,
guess.
absolutely.
It's like, does this does this have cargo space? Oh, the cargo road. All right, Eric, what you got?
Okay, my question, D-Mase, is actually a two-part question, and this is concerning like OTAs and off-season, all that type of stuff, because I know the players are getting ready to break between offense, the OTAs and training camp. Now, during those times, first of all, one of the question, what did you do or what would you consider is your best way of training? Was it like running or weight training, treadmill, biking, whatever? I mean, what would you consider your best way of training? And the second part of the question was this. Did you find that you best trained when you were alone or working out with somebody? And what I mean by that is with like a personal trainer or a teammate. I mean, how did you think that went? Were you at best just training on your own or just working out with a personal trainer or a teammate? Just those two-part questions. Guys, y'all take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
I appreciate that. Let me go with the latter. Once I decided to, and I think it was after my second year, once I decided to sort of take myself outside of the facility to work out. I was working out with a few other guys. I think Samari was one of them, and I'm trying to figure out who else it was. And we had a guy that we used to work out with. It's really good, trainer. But then, once I got to Baltimore, I did a lot of stuff on my own with the trainer. And again, I'm one of those guys that I don't need another player next to me motivating me, like running it wise. I'm going to motivate. The time is going to motivate me. If coach said because we did several things. We did row machines. We ran on the track. Because my whole thing was, listen, I can get stronger in the weight room at the facility. That can happen. What I can't get is the running portion. Because we are the only position. We run every single play. Probably defensive back to some extent, but we run every play. Even on run plays, we got to run off the line of scrimmage. So we need to be the best conditioned athletes out there. Receivers, we should always be the best conditioned athletes out there. So my thing was, I'm running. Whatever it is, row machine, cardio, I'm doing everything cardio. And if you give me a goal, I am competing against that goal you're giving me. I'm not competing against somebody else on the side of me working out. Now, I have worked out with other people, and that's cool. But I like that one-on-one attention. I like for the trainer to be able to, know where I misstepped here, not watching like 5 other people or 6 other people. No, I'm paying you this money. I want it to be solely about me. You see what I'm saying? So I work best when it was just me and a trainer because it was zeroing in on the things that I need to work at. Not, you need to work in there. Let me go over here and check him out and see what he's doing or check him out. No. Let's just check me out. That's what it's about. So I worked best when it was just me and the trainer. I didn't like nobody knowing what I was doing or anything else because it wasn't for anybody else. It was for me. Yeah. So I wasn't coming in, hey, man, I went to this guy and I did. No, I'm doing me. You do you, I'm doing me. Now, if you ask me, I tell you want to come work out, come on, great. But other than that, it's me and my trainer. He would tell you, yeah. In Baltimore, it was always just me and him. Getting up I'm there at 6, 7 in the morning, and we're working 3 or 4 hours. Track, indoor, outdoor, it don't matter. What was his first question? I totally forgot that one. I think everybody forgot the first question, didn't we?
It was how you worked out was the question.
Yeah.
I mean, you covered it. I think.
So
whether it was weights and things like that, just the various things.
Yeah. Oh no. What he said, OTAs. My time after the final OTA we would have before we reported back in July, I would work out right up until the beginning of July, and then after that, I would give myself 2 weeks to just relax. Not to say I wasn't doing anything. But I shaved a lot of it down so I could be mentally and emotionally ready for a season.
Let's get to Wes, who has a question for D-Mase. What's up, Wes?
A long time no talk, guys. I'm glad to be here. I got a quick little dad joke for you, and pretty funny. What form of transportation spreads allergy?
What form of transportation? What
spreads allergies?
Spreads allergy.
Oh. You know that one, Willie?
No.
No.
You ready for it?
Go ahead.
A choo train.
Choo train.
Oh, man.
Okay.
I figured it was almost the right season for that, so I had to give it to you. D-Mase, my question for you today is something that I'm really struggling with, and I know you're a parent, you're a dad. I'm a single father, raising a 9-year-old, about to be a 10-year-old. So hopefully you can help me out with this. And if you can, you will go down as my favorite wide receiver to ever play the football in the history of the game.
Oh man, that's pressure right there.
Help me out, man. When two parents are split up and raising the same child with two completely different morals and beliefs, how do you establish the balance with your child without making the other party look bad? And I will hang up and listen.
Without looking bad.
Thanks for your call, Wes.
That is a good question. Yeah. That's a good life question. I'm gonna tell you from my experience, because obviously I was married 15. We were together a total of 17, and to this day we remain really good friends, and we co-parent wonderfully. 90% of the time. The other 10% usually is my doing, because I didn't do something or didn't remember something. So the other 10% is on me. But what we found is, regardless of what happened in our relationship, because our relationships, some just don't work, no matter what. Some just don't work, and it is what it is. But what you got to understand is, it wasn't. The kids didn't ask for this. Little Johnny, little Derek didn't ask for this, or little Bailey, she didn't ask for this. So what we got to do is we got to make sure that whatever we're doing is in the best interest of the kid. Now, in my case, it wasn't nothing like this one where there was these two different morals and values. That becomes tough, because what if your religious beliefs are totally different, or, your political beliefs are totally different. So there are things within that can sort of put a wedge between you and your ex. But what you got to understand, what is best for the kid? That's all. Y'all grown-ups. Y'all are living y'all life. Y'all have done it or are doing it. This is a little person. They're still trying to figure out what life is about. So when figuring out what life is about, you want to make it easy for them in this situation. Again, because they didn't ask for this. So it's not about you, Wes. It's not about your ex. It's about the kid. What's best for the kid? Y'all need to decide that. Take your egos out of it. Take your hurt and your pain out of it. And I know sometimes that's hard to do. But your hurt and your pain and your ego is not going to help the kid. Because what he or she's going to see is the back and forth bickering. And that's all they're going to remember, is my mom and dad fought all the time, or they disagreed all the time. You got to be able to put your egos aside and say, what is best for the kid? Okay, that's best for him or her. Let's do that, regardless of how we feel. what's best for the kid. Sometimes what I may say is best for the kid, and sometimes what she may say is best for the kid, you know? But
great advice.
Yeah, but you got to think, you got to take yourself out of it. You're a grown up. Take yourself out of it. Little man or little lady, she didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's my
advice.
advice.
Let's get to Michael quickly before we get to a break. Michael, what's your question for D-Mase? Thanks for calling in.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to ask D-Mase what if he had a specific teammate or maybe not a teammate, someone he played against, whether that be in his college or professional career, where no matter how many times you line up against him, either on the practice field or in a game setting, where that you knew that guy was going to give you the best that he was going to give you, and just the most memories you have with one specific person that you lined up against the field against.
I think it's a good question. Guy that I played with, I think Samari, because he and I, you know, we would always more than likely end up going against each other. And that's the way you wanted it, because he was our best defensive back and I was the team's best wide receiver. So I knew that I was going to get Samari's best each and every time I went against him. And he knew that he was going to get my best each and every time that he and I went against each other. So that's one guy that I can say I played with. Played against, man, Ty Law. It's another guy. Champ Bailey, you knew you were going to get the best of him each and every play. And there's other guys that fall into that category, but those are some of the guys that are firsthand, just like Ed Reed, you knew, but Ed didn't cover me, but you knew him on that back end. You were going to get 100% of Ed Reed each and every time he stepped on that field.
All right, I appreciate for everyone for sending in their questions for D-Mase every Friday at 12:30. Coming up next, we are heading into baseball super regionals. The Tennessee Vols first pitch is in 1 hour from right now, and it really does seem like they've got a wee bit of a cakewalk to Omaha. We'll get into that, but before we get into our thoughts on Tennessee, I do want to address a question that has been proposed throughout the baseball offseason, and that is, are we getting to an unsustainable point in college sports? We'll get into that coming up next. And also, if we are getting to that point, what's the solution? We'll get into that coming up next. We'll get into your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan today as the Nashville Sounds take on the Louisville Bats at home. Pre-game at 6:20 p.m., first pitch at 6:35, with coverage also available on 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks Family Leisure and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game in the Game Nashville app. We're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And hey, you can get your team signed up right now to play in the 615 Open at Hermitage Golf Course on Thursday, June 20th. There will be delicious sample offerings from Prince's Hot Chicken, Bavarian Beer House, and more. Enjoy Michelob Ultra and other adult beverages at our sampling stations. Afterward, dinner is provided by Burger Republic. Tennessee Baseball will kick off their regional in less than 1 hour. Tennessee Baseball taking on Evansville in the Knoxville Super Regional. I want to get into some of our thoughts on that. But first, now that there are teams in the baseball postseason after the regionals, they're headed back home. Their season has come to an end. There's at least one coach in college baseball that thought, hey, look, if we're going home, I'm done, then I'm going to just go ahead and let my opinion be known. This was Coastal Carolina head coach Gary Gilmore.
Gary Gilmore,
longtime Coastal Carolina head coach, and Coastal Carolina, a
won a
baseball
national
program that won a national championship. Like I understand it's not a Power 5 or rather Power 4 conference, but Coastal Carolina is one of those programs that will be in the dance, that will be knocking on the door. It's a program that has postseason expectations. Gary Gilmore, after Coastal Carolina got eliminated in the Clemson Regional, had a post-game press conference and just kind of addressed this current
because he's
state.
retiring.
He's retiring.
Yeah.
He addressed the current state of college sports and explained exactly why he's retiring.
Had a system where everyone was a free agent every year. Do you realize what chaos would be? It would go away. You wouldn't have those three sports. If you did, baseball, it'd be the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, Texas, and the rest of the teams couldn't compete because they would spend every amount of money they needed to spend to do it. And that's what's going on right now. Yeah, I mean, there's not a level playing field. It's just ridiculous for me. Much as I'm going to miss the kids, and I'm going to miss the heck out of them, dealing with that mess, I'm telling you right now, I mean, the fact that there are teams in college baseball giving $2+ million of NIL money away, I mean, come on, man. It's just,
And there was Gary Gilmore, Coastal Carolina head coach, and the audio's a little shaky there, but essentially what he said was, imagine the Yankees and the Red Sox and professional sports teams having free agency, not just every single year, but twice a year. Mm-hmm. That's the reality that college coaches are working with now. It's not just baseball, it's every college coach. Is it time for contracts in college sports?
Hold on, before you say, didn't somebody else sort of that same sentiment? Didn't somebody else
he
say
is
that
not
months ago? Somebody else said that same thing.
And if
months
coaches
ago.
aren't saying it publicly,
they're saying it
behind closed doors.
There are a lot of college coaches that are coming to this conclusion, which is what we talked a little bit about the Danny Hurley situation. If he is lured away by the Lakers, I have to believe on some level that he's looking at this and saying, boy, in the years to come, this is going to be a tremendous amount of work to sustain being on top of the mountain, which is where he is. He's won 2 national titles where his team in the tournament really hasn't been challenged. 2 straight years. That's hard to do. But, when you have to reload every year, and as Gary Gilmore said, essentially every player is a free agent every year in college athletics. And as you pointed out, Caroline, I didn't even thought about that until you said it.
Spring and fall transfer.
Twice a year. Yeah. Twice a year you become a free agent.
So it's every 6 months.
Yes.
Basically.
And Gary Gilmore used this example. Once the baseball season's over, your kids go off and usually play summer league, right? You're trying to improve. You're trying to win a spot back. You're trying to maybe get the attention of pro scouts if that's what your dream is. So you're going off to play in the Cape Cod League or the Alaskan League or whatever. There's a lot of great ones. And your stock could rise. At the end of the summer, Gary Gilmore used the example. He says, I have to hold my commitment. D-Mase, you're my second baseman. Great year, D-Mase. I'll see you in the fall. I'm upholding my commitment to you as a scholarship. And you'd say, great, coach. Sounds great. You go off and have a great year at Cape Cod. The scouts all see you. Other teams see you. Power conferences who have more money than Coastal Carolina. And say, D-Mase, how about becoming my second baseman for $100,000 or $200,000? What do you think is going to happen? That's what Gary Gilmore is really frustrated about. especially, and we talked about it with Vanderbilt, if you're a coach that cherishes building and shaping teams, young men, young women, and saying, look, we're lifelong relationships here. This is something special, your experience of 3-4 years at our school. Anymore. It just is, it's a different thing. And not only that, it's accelerating more so every year as this cycle builds. It's pulling more people into the black hole. For example, let's look at Vanderbilt basketball. They go to their website, vucommodores.com, go to the basketball page, and click on roster.
It was like 2 people.
Is there one?
They don't list one.
Wow.
They don't. They literally there are no names on the roster.
And I understand why. Yeah.
Now they're releasing on the website all of the players that they're getting through the portal, and this guy has done an unbelievable job. I haven't seen him come up for air because he's been working the streets, working the circuit, going into the portal, finding people. He's got a brand new team. They're from everywhere. They're from Southern Cal. They're from Virginia Tech. They're from, I mean, you name it. He took one guy from where he came from, James Madison. Then Alan Lubin played for Vanderbilt last year. He's going to North Carolina. So he's gone from Notre Dame to Vanderbilt to North Carolina. In 10 years, Then Alan Lubin's a nice player. I don't think he's an NBA player. Maybe he'll play professionally for a while or whatever. But in 20 years, when they say, Van Allen, where'd you go to college? Well, it's interesting. I went to Notre Dame, Vanderbilt. Where'd you get your degree?
That's gonna be a lot
I
of
went
people.
to Notre Dame, then Vanderbilt. Like, he might even remember all the colleges he went to. My goodness.
But that's going to be a lot of kids, the way it's going.
It's becoming more and more normal,
Yeah.
right, for that to happen. But is that a good thing for the kids? And so I started thinking about this. Like, it's at some point, can we stop the madness or at least have an option for coaches and players who mutually agree, I don't want this madness. And could I offer you, D-Mase, after 1 year maybe, a 2-year contract to stay? If you and I both agree. Like, we know we're years away from having a system or a collective bargaining. Like, we're way away from that. That's going to take a ton of work. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of teams. We're not talking about a 32-team league that's got to come up with a collective bargaining agreement. We're talking about 300 and some odd schools just at Division I. Forget about Division II and Division III, where there's hundreds of more schools.
But it's really only about 2 or 3 conferences. That's what it's about.
So that's Gary Gilmore's point. He goes, this is all about who can spend the most money on players. I want a league where there's competitive balance, where if we do our stuff right, it can be about what we do as a team. And not just we get outspent. The better I do, the better my team does, the more chances people are going to come raid my roster. That's what it's like at that level. Like, think about Belmont basketball and the continuity that they've had for decades, where Rick Byrd hands it over to Casey Alexander. Freshmen become sophomores. Sophomores become juniors. Now Belmont is a victim of their own success. Their top players are now like, wow, those guys are really good at Belmont. We could use that guy. Let's offer him more money than Belmont is able to pay. So this is an issue. Like, so how do we stop the madness? I thought of, I know it's not collectively bargained. I don't know. There are no rules. So is there any rule that says I can't sign you to a 2-year contract for some money?
So my question is, who are you signing the contract with? Is it an agreement, me, myself, as a person with you, the coach? Is it I'm signing a contract to a university? Am I signing a contract with the collective? That was the whole Jaden Rashada thing. Jaden Rashada was a quarterback out of the 2022 class. He originally committed to Miami, and then Florida said, we'll pay you $13 million to come here, and he signed a contract with the collective. So is that the path that you're going to go down? So that's what I would want to know is, with whom are you signing a contract? Because if you're signing a contract with the school, aren't you now an employee? And aren't you now entitled to benefits? Do you have to go to class if you're signing a contract with the university? If you're signing a contract with the collective, then what kind of rules and regulations
do you have to the school?
Right. And like, is the collective now having conversations with the coach of, hey, we signed a contract with your player? Well, what kind of allegiance do you have with a coach if you signed a contract with a collective? That's my only question. I'm with you that there are guardrails that need to exist. And I'm very pro transfer portal.